Hello. Hi, everyone. How are you all doing today? Um, Let me know if you can hear me and everything, because we're on a new scene. So sometimes Twitch is twitchy. um, okay, good. Okay. Jupiter, do you want to talk just to make sure your audio is working too?
Yes, hello everyone. I'm here. Hopefully you can hear both of us. Hello.
You guys are so sweet. Stop it. Okay, it's all good.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yay! All right, I'm glad. It's always nice when everything does what it's supposed to on OBS and Twitch. Okay, amazing. Well, friends, you already probably know what we're doing today. Humans of Twitch is a new series we're working on, essentially trying to share some of the background stories behind some of the creators you really enjoy watching on a weekly basis. Because I don't know, there's just some things that are part of our stories that we don't always necessarily know when it's the right time, or if there's you're gaming, you're having fun, you're not always like, here's my childhood upbringing or whatever. But I think it is really cool to know how people get where they are. So um, that's what we're up to. Normally there'll be a third box on the screen for a guest because lovely Jupiter and I are just hosts. We're not normally going to be the center of attention, normally just asking the questions. But today, it was asked many times, my DMs. People were like, okay, but B, when do we get to Humans of Twitch U? And this was before Jupiter was here. And I was like, okay, fine. Now that we have a co host, I guess we can interview each other. But if you want to maybe introduce yourself, Jupiter, and then I'll introduce myself too, even though I know we're on my channel. I know we have, oh boy.
My friends are here. Hi, Amber.
I love Amber. Hello. Hi, Raiders. Thank you for the love bomb. Welcome in.
So
Hi.
sweet. Hi, friends. All right.
I will let you kick it off, and I'll introduce myself too, just because I think a lot of our new friends here are your friends.
Yes, we have a mix, which is lovely to see. Hello, everyone. My name is Jupiter. My handle is Joyful Jupiter, and I am a content creator, a Twitch streamer, and a professional actor. And I'm so thrilled to be on board with B doing the Humans of Twitch project. I'm so excited to get to know all of these wonderful creators and have some really great conversations, and bring a little more humanity to Twitch because I think that is something that is always needed.
Hi, Anusha. um, that's yes, amazing. Are these captions gonna do their thing, or are they frozen? Hello. Mm, let's see. I think we've got a caption issue here. They've stopped. They're frozen.
Did I refresh? Do you think that would
Oh,
help? The,
they've come back. Um, no worries. I just wanted to make sure they fixed. I don't know what happened, but um, yes. And for those of you who are new here, my name is B. I use they, them, theirs, and zay, them, theirs pronouns. I am a queer and disabled content creator, mostly on Twitch and TikTok. I've only been streaming for 9 months, so I'm pretty new to this space. But one of the things that I've appreciated the most about it has been the human connection to other people and seeing just kind of the brilliant brains that are on the platform. I know that the platform sometimes gets a bad rap for some of the negativity, but I do think if you get yourself into the right little niche corners, you find just magical humans. And I've been really lucky, so I'm excited for the project, and I'm excited to have Jupiter join us. I am. I'm not gonna lie to you all. I am a little bit nervous. I mean, I did design the project so that I could ask the questions, not to answer them. But I do think it's important to exhibit the level of vulnerability you're asking of somebody else. You know, being willing to practice what you preach. So we're gonna give it a go, but
You're gonna be
patience,
fine.
patience and grace is always
Yes.
appreciated.
Yes. And I think the best thing is that, we're kind of treating this as not only a chance to get to know each other a little bit more because we're going to do this long term project, but also just a chance to figure out how we have the best conversations with each other, with guests, and knowing that this is not supposed to be a high pressured environment. We're here to discuss things and be there for each other while we ask the harder questions.
Some fun, some hard. All
Right. It's
all
a
of the
mix.
above.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. My goodness gracious. Well, friends, welcome in. Um, one quick, I guess, like disclaimer, and it's gonna flow through the chat, but we are obviously gonna focus primarily on the conversation, which means that I'm not gonna probably like welcome in every hello, every raid, every alert like I normally do. Um, yeah, Dragon Slayer, it's a little special. I had to learn to talk pretty slow and a little more careful with Pixel Chat, so but I forget and get excited sometimes. And I might not see every single message. Like a lot of you always say like, B, I love how like no matter what size group of people in here, you always read my message. Humans of Twitch is going to be a little different for reasons I'm sure you all can understand. But feel free to chat amongst yourself. And if you do have questions, we will maybe answer them if we see them and we feel like they flow in, and maybe we won't, but you're welcome to ask them. Um, we didn't plan for who wants to go first, but it doesn't
We
matter to me.
didn't. We didn't. We missed that minor detail. It's totally up to you, B. I'm very comfortable going first. If you want me to chisel away at the ice a little bit,
Okay,
I'm
sounds
I'm
good.
fine with that.
Okay, awesome. All right, let me grab my questions. I'm kind of like I'm this is the only time I've ever had a situation with something on Twitch that I wish I had three monitors.
Yes,
I
that
normally
would be
am
handy.
like three monitor setups seem really aggressive, but with this I'm like, "Oh gosh, there's so many things." Hi, Miss
I
Elizabeth.
I just see us in all of my peripherals, and I'm like, where should I look?
My goodness. Okay. That's awesome. Um Okay, so the first question that I had for you was if you could kind of if someone sort of approached you and they were at a more beginner or tumultuous part of their journey of self-discovery, like what kind of advice would you give them in terms of like how did you gain confidence in your own identity?
That's such a great question. I feel like this is something that I reflect on a lot as a content creator, as someone with now that has a platform of some size, because I remember being, a teenager, and I remember not being sure of myself, not knowing where I was in my journey or how I would describe myself, in terms of sexuality, heritage, identity, all of those things. And I do get questions like this from time to time in my chat, in my stream. And I'm always happy when I do because I want to tell people, like, for me, something that was so helpful was definitely online communities. I think Twitch and other platforms that are similar are so wonderful in bringing you to people that are like yourself, that look like you, that may have had experiences like you. And that was something that I didn't have for like the first 25 years of my life, which is really kind of wild looking back on. But now that I have so many wonderful communities that I belong to, I want other people to know, like, these communities exist. You may have to do a little bit of work to find them. Think outside the box. It might not be people in your hometown or the town that you live in, but use the tools at your disposal, whether that's Twitch, whether that's, I don't know, people use Facebook groups for these kinds of things, like all sorts of tools that come with the internet. Um, Find your people, watch content of people that you think you may be similar to, and you'll really discover a lot about yourself for sure.
Yeah, so many people kind of discredit the validity of online community spaces, and every person that I'm close with knows that that's like a fundamental part of them figuring out who they are and feeling
Yeah.
comfortable with themselves when the people in their immediate social circle maybe weren't ready to be there for them the way that they needed support. So that's
Right.
awesome.
Yeah.
I love that.
Absolutely. And I think also like the last year and a half has shown us even more so the power of the internet and the power of online communities while we were kind of forced to be at home and have to turn to these things. And I think that that's been really great because, you know, the way it stands now, we're going to be living on the internet forever. So we might as well get used to it.
Oh, yeah, I don't think some people will like that very much, but I don't think we're ever gonna go back to like normal. I
Right.
think our world has been fundamentally shifted in the last year. How that's gonna
Absolutely.
translate, who knows? But
Yeah.
yeah.
We're making a new normal.
Yeah, hopefully one that's a little bit more empathetic and like understanding, but we shall see.
I certainly hope so.
Amazing. Thanks for sharing.
Of course. Let me turn my phone off. Bad etiquette.
That's okay.
Bad co-host etiquette.
Don't worry. Um, did you want to bounce back and forth, Jupie?
Yeah, let's do that. Okay.
So
So
there's
I kind
no
of broke.
no pressure on anyone for
Okay,
too
yeah.
long.
That's right. I remember this is where we landed. I kind of broke my questions up into sections of, I don't know, like content creation, different things of life and whatnot. So I'll try to bounce back and forth depending on how our conversation is going, but it might be some of the same content related questions at first, just so you
No
know. Okay.
worries.
So my first question, and a question that I think everyone is wondering, is what drove you to start the Humans of Twitch project?
Mm, that's valid. Um, I so I told you this story already. You know this, but for everyone else, growing up, I really wanted to. I spent a period of my time thinking I would be a journalist, and it was a long, windy road, and we didn't really wind up there. But the version of journalism that most interested me was this sort of like humanity of like Humans of Twitch, where you were going to share people's stories. You were going to be a storyteller like that. I remember a time in my life where I thought I'd have a tattoo that said storyteller. And that's a little cheesy for me now at this point, but like wholesome,
It's sweet.
small baby bee. That's what I thought. And I do think in some ways that carries through my journey as a content creator and whatnot. But it was very wholesome because when I was a teenager, I would interview people. I had no platform. I had nowhere to put these stories um, that I was doing. But I would sit and interview like my friends and like mentors in my life and do basically exactly what we're doing now and just ask them like deeper questions than like typically surface level day-to-day conversations get to. um, i I think maybe that's like in part like a neurodivergent thing. Like I don't really understand or care for small talk very much, but most people in the world aren't ready to just like, whew,
Oh
let's
my
just like
gosh.
dive in.
I hope you're not hearing my neighbors. They're so loud.
Oh, you're good. I don't hear them at all. Discord is
Okay,
really
good.
good at neutralizing anything that's not
Good.
coming right from your microphone, so you should be okay.
Perfect. There's
Um,
like a motorcycle gang out there, so I just making sure.
you should be amazed. Yeah. So I think for me it was that I always had the vision for this. I just never had the platform. You
Hmm.
know, I never had any way to share the stories with other people. But even with my students, I would always have them do an activity like this. and learn how to ask people like hard questions and answer hard questions. Because I mean, I was a big whatchamacallit, um, I'm gonna forget the name, which is quite rude. Um, there's an author that her name is not coming to my mind. She's very famous, but anyways, she talks a lot about vulnerability and how like your relationships aren't very authentic if you're not willing to put yourself in the ring. Like if you're not really willing to go there with people in your life. And so that's yeah, I wanted to go there with people on this platform and dig in a little deeper than I think that we typically see. I think there's like some little like boop boop. Yes, Brene Brown. Thank you, Annie. Um, there's like I feel like there's people I'm very much like attracted to via energy on the platform, and those are the people who are already willing to have these conversations. But I just want to see more of it, so I was like, well, why not? Let's go for it. It'll be a
I
fun little
love it.
challenge for me and a really
Right.
great, engaging opportunity for everyone else too. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
I think that the idea of just digging deeper, especially when oftentimes you're only, ever going to see these people behind a screen, behind a computer, but just remembering that we're all people too, and that's, it's important to remember that humanity.
Yes. This is not my like formal question for you, but I am curious like what went so if y'all don't know, I made like a post um and I was like I do think I need like a co-host for this after I made it because I was like I think we need different lived experiences in the room other than just me and whoever I'm bouncing off of. Um and I am just curious like you responded so quickly like what went through your head?
I did. Well, it's so funny because for when I saw the post, I immediately remember seeing your first post talking about the project, and I was like so excited that you were doing this because I had been following the Humans of New York Instagram for years at this point. Like, I always loved that project. I love anything that's just getting to know people, and not only that, but just giving a candid snapshot of people in our world. And so when I saw that you were calling for a co-host, I was like, this is a sign. Like I'm meant to do this. I really that was what came to my brain because my as my community knows, like something I'm very passionate about is not just video games and content creation. Not that I don't love those things, but I really enjoy connecting with people. That's kind of what got me into streaming in the first place. And with my theater degree, I've always wanted to kind of use that as to do hosting or commentating or things for different events that will use my skill set, as well as being able to be part of projects that I'm passionate about. So it seemed like the perfect role for me, and I was so excited that you were looking for a co-host.
You were like, "Let me take this lead. Let's
Yeah, I was like
go."
instantly in your DM. I was like, I got a DM beat right now.
I love that though. I was like, "Oh, hi."
I was
I
like,
was
I
very
know I get to
excited.
jump on this because it's a great opportunity, and it's beyond that, it's a passion project, and that's the kind of work that I'm interested in.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm very excited. I didn't know what the response would be only because it's like such a big commitment. Like I didn't know if anyone had the time, space, mental energy because I didn't mean for this to happen, but we are scheduled out for Sundays until 2022, y'all. So y'all don't know who they are, but those announcements will come. In fact, I'll probably announce next month's creators soon. But yes, we do have freaking content creators up the wahoo for the next
It
like
Yeah,
it's gonna be it's gonna be a long journey, but I think a really fun one. I'm really excited. Um,
I am too, and it just goes to show the depth of amazing creators on the platform that deserve to have the spotlight in a different way for a little while.
Absolutely, there's so many people I could have invited still, and like, and the slots were so full for like, it was bananas. Um, but anyways, I shall. I digress. But I'm happy that you responded to the tweet. I was just curious what your thoughts were. Love you, Jade. Um, so my next question for you is more in the world of creation, kind of like you were saying. I was just curious, um, how you feel that both like acting and content creation has influenced your life and your journey.
Oh yeah. Wow, it's been such a journey. I will say I never thought I'd end up here. That's for sure. You know, when I was 7 years old and I decided I wanted to be an actor, that was a much different uh, part of my life, and that was like 15, 17 years that I was doing plays and musicals and choir and orchestra and just being on stage and like any way that I can because I love performing. I love the spotlight. I love being in front of people and bringing a story to life. So that was my true love for a really long time. But like you were talking about with your journey in journalism, things do not always end up the way that we plan or dream or expect, and that's okay. So I did go to college for theater, and I was fully committed to pursuing acting professionally, whether that be on stage, in TV, film. That was my goal. But after college, reality kind of hit, and it after going to one audition in Hollywood after college, I quickly realized that it was not uh, the beautiful, glamorous Hollywood that I grew up thinking that it was, and that no one wanted a tattooed Mexican actor with colored hair. That was not the vibe, and that there wasn't going to be a place for me there. So it was hard, but and I had to make money, obviously. So I had real jobs, office jobs, 9 to 5. Not acting, not performing. I would do little things here and there, but it was definitely not. I wasn't living my dream. But then a couple years down the line, I got a job in the video game world, and I learned about live streaming. It was something that I knew existed, but it never really lived in my realm of possibilities. I wasn't on Twitch. I wasn't a big YouTube watcher, anything like that. I very much didn't live online yet. So once I learned about Twitch streaming specifically, I was like, wow, this could be the perfect intersection of my skills, my interests. I have to do this. Like this is kind of the future. This is where I could see myself kind of excelling. And I'm thankful that I had some really great friends at that job one is now one of my moderators, and a
Full
partner
circle.
who, yeah, very full circle. And a partner who I met at that job at an event, who they supported me all the way. They were like, yes, you should become a streamer. Like, we will support you. Let's do this. And a year and a half later, here we are.
So, I love that. I do think like every single streamer I ever talk to, if you ask him a similar question, they're literally like, "Well, I never expected to be here, but here we are."
But it's a great place to be. I don't mean that in any negative sort of way. I'm really happy that things turned out the way they did, because I think that the cool thing about content creation is there's so many branches on the tree, so many different ways that you can go and succeed, and pursue your passion and your creative endeavor, all while maybe starting with just streaming on Twitch. So
Yeah,
how cool is that?
absolutely. Annie said, "I love how Twitch lets creators carve out their own space when traditional media slash entertainment spaces don't," and that like resonates with me and really sounds it aligns with what I heard you say, right? Like you didn't see the space for yourself in the traditional industry you had originally hoped to
Yeah.
tackle.
Yeah, and that's what it was. It's like and I didn't want to force myself to go after something that didn't want me, and that's very
Mm.
much how it was feeling. And that was not good for anything, productivity, my mental health. I know what I'm capable of. I know what I bring to the table. And if I can't uh, be respected or appreciated, then it's not the space for me, and that's totally okay.
Yeah. I'm proud of you for protecting your own energy. The amount of
Thank you.
people who do try to force themselves because they don't know anything else and they don't
Hmm.
have that confidence to carve their own path is the large majority.
It
Um,
is, yeah.
so
And I'm thankful that I was forced into sort of always carving my own path in life, because it helped me has always helped me realize when I need to, okay, we're redirecting,
yeah.
and there's nothing wrong with that.
You're on the road trip and the lady on the Google Maps is it's rerouting. We're
Right.
rerouting.
Exactly. Faster route available by 5 minutes.
Oh my goodness gracious. Hello Sopa, welcome in friends. Um yes. Yes. Amazing. Well, thank you for sharing that part of your I didn't really know that you were into um, like acting and stuff before we had this opportunity to connect. I knew you had a knack for just like performance because I've obviously seen your streams before, but I didn't know it was actually like your background too.
It is. And, it'll always be like, it's my first love. It is. And I've taken theater opportunities since then. I think that I always will, because it's just part of my soul. And theater was there for me when I was growing up, when I didn't have anything. That was the place where I could go and be myself, or be someone else for a little while, because sometimes that's even easier. And yeah, I love it, but we're a hybrid. We're a hybrid actor now.
Yeah, yeah,
It's a
definitely.
hybrid role.
It
Oh,
has influenced everything else you're doing. You're right, Rob. Jupie is so cool.
hi, friends. I love
um,
you.
if you don't mind, if I know we're bouncing back and forth, but I feel like the next question relates really well to what you were sharing. If
Sure.
it's okay if I just ask you another one.
Absolutely.
Um, I wanted to know, like, what is your favorite part of the energy at like a festival or a performance?
Oh, oh my gosh. So when you go to school for theater, and when you do something like that, like 80 hours of your week, it becomes your whole life, right? And so many times I look back on like my favorite educational moments in acting, or going to see a show with my fellow, thespians or class or whatever it may be, and we always talked about the magic of live performance, and like that is something that will always stick with me, because it's so true. And music festivals, a play, a musical that you see in person, they're all the same when it comes to the magic of live performance. One, because that's only going to ever happen in that moment. You're there, right there, experiencing that with everyone in the vicinity. And that's so magical. And two, because it's happening live and right in front of you and in the moment, things that go amiss or wrong or really right, it just like adds this special energy to what's happening. And you feel that, when you're watching a DJ, or you're watching a play, or you're watching a singer, whatever it may be. Like, it's just the magic of being right there in the moment with them. That's it. Like that. One, because I know that feeling from both sides, both as a patron, as a viewer, or as someone who was on the stage. And it's a special connection that you share with the audience and the performer, and I live for that. And I think you get a little bit of that with Twitch streaming too. It's not quite the same, but the magical vibes are still there.
Absolutely. Yeah. I was thinking when you were saying that, I was thinking like the difference between watching live and participating versus like watching a VOD, right? Like it's still
Right.
very pleasurable to watch the video afterwards, but you can't contribute. Your energy isn't a part of the energy of that space, which,
Right.
you know. Yeah. That's
It's a
amazing.
thank you. It's a combined thing, right? Like it's like, oh, it's a collection, it's a collective energy, and there's just something so special about that.
Yeah, it's a collection of all the people in that space and how they're kind of like, uh, not Nightbot telling me to save the game. We're not playing a game,
Nightbot,
Nightbot.
please.
you're you're fired, actually. Um, but yeah, like it's a collection of all the people in that space, and that just like can't ever be in that moment in time doing that thing. Um, that can't be recreated.
Mhm.
So that's
Yeah,
pretty cool.
I think
That's
it's
all.
really special. That was a good question. That tied in really well. See, look, we're already doing the thing that we talked
Yeah.
about. Okay. So I think my next two questions will tie into each other. So this will be great. So since we're talking about content creation and our journeys, what or who inspired you to become a content creator?
Oh. Um. I think that it was. Oh, this is interesting. I was. There's so many little pieces. That's what's happening in my brain right now. I kind of feel like I'm like I could start here, I could start here, I could start here, and my brain doesn't wanna like doesn't know where because it doesn't feel like a very like linear journey. Like surface level, I was very heavily involved in the Sims YouTube community in terms of as a like as a viewer and as a watcher, and that's how I like learned of the platform. Was that a lot of the content creators on there were also shifting to also creating live content to be able to engage with their audience more and explore a wider variety of content. And so I was excited to kind of like go vibe and watch that. And then when I got here, I found the beauty of small communities on Twitch that were oriented towards the things, the values that I cared about, which was such a critical moment for me because I had just moved back home from graduating from university. And rural northern Wisconsin isn't exactly a place where being openly like leftist, queer, disabled, believing in things like Black Lives Matter, trans rights matter, etc., is exactly welcomed. It's
Mm-hmm.
the fear of can I walk to the store in present XY way without being like harassed at the store. It's that kind of energy. So, I basically spent a lot of time alone in my apartment. We were also in the middle of a pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
So, any opportunity to potentially find community in person, because obviously there are like marginalized people everywhere, no matter what. Um, but I couldn't like go to a queer community event because there were no events being held. In person for you to meet anybody. So I was very lonely. Like to be frank, I all of my friends we scattered throughout the U.S. and beyond after graduation, and other than connecting with them, online, I had no connection to the town that I was plopped back into, and so um, found the beauty of like being um, I found the beauty of being in small Twitch communities that centered and welcomed queer, disabled people, and I could be myself in them. And I could try, I could be called B, and I could use my preferred pronouns, and they were happy and excited for me to be there as I was instead of everything constantly being like a battle to just like kind of exist in a space. And so then I was like, well, maybe I could do this, and I thought I was gonna play some Sims, maybe to some friends. And 9 months later, it has become so much more than I like ever could have imagined it to be. I didn't know anything about Twitch culture. I didn't have any clue about it as an industry. I just was like, I'm gonna play some Sims, and I have had to very much learn as I go. But I'm not mad about that. It's been a fun journey, a hard journey, but a fun journey.
Oh, wow. I'm digesting a little bit because before we even go into the next question, I think that it's so important for you to know that we have more in common than we even thought, which is wild because I feel like we felt a sort of connection to one another, in being marginalized identities on this platform,
Yeah.
period.
It's
There's our
kind of an
similarities right
instant
there.
like.
Right, we're connected.
Yeah.
But I lived in Wisconsin for 10 years. That's where I went to college.
Oh.
So I just want you to know that I feel everything you're saying so much, and
Yeah.
yeah, I understand, and I think that I'm so glad that you were brought to Twitch in the way that you were, and that you found such a beautiful and safe space here because you deserve it. Everyone does, and it's something that I very similarly went through, and I think it's beautiful.
It was particularly important because it was very obviously I lived in Wisconsin as a child, but um I don't think I was as cognizantly aware of what was happening around me, and nor was I openly expressing who I was as a person because I didn't know. And I had just gone to college, and I went to school in New York. So it was a polar opposite difference. Like they could not care less
Hmm.
about me expressing who I was, or yeah, and so um, to like so boldly come out of the closet, I literally worked like at the LGBT Resource Center, and was like a staff member there working. Um, I graduated with like it's in my closet, like I had the lavender ropes, the rainbow ropes, like
Aw.
I went from that and being B and using they them pronouns to immediately plopped back into where I was when I had to be in the closet with people who weren't respectful of who I was. And so it was very jarring, and I just needed to I needed to come up with a temporary solution until a more physical solution, like when I moved to Chicago, was an option.
Right, right. Wow. Yeah, and it's sometimes I have to remember that, in the space that we exist here on Twitch and are able to be surrounded by so many amazing people who understand us and who are like us. If you've never been in a situation like that, it's really it's a different world.
I
Yeah,
forget
it really.
sometimes.
Yeah, you do, and then when I hear you talking about it, I'm just like, I'm immediately taken back to living there and being in the closet and being called slurs openly, and people thinking that it's a joke, and that it's okay and that it's funny, and wow, yeah. And it sucks because not every person in Wisconsin is bad. Of course, nothing like that. There are many marginalized people in Wisconsin and the Midwest and places, but the vast majority feels like you're just not allowed to be those things.
I think the Midwest experience is unique in the sense that the marginalized people were there, but the means to connect with each other are very limited compared to a city where there is public transportation,
Right.
to create spaces for gathering. Like, so often, um, we're hours away from each other,
Mm-hmm.
and we're the few in
Mm-hmm.
this city, and there's a few in that city, and there's a few in that city, but we have no like access to each other, especially if you're low income, etc. Those
Mm-hmm.
means just aren't there, and so I think that's when you have rural communities as part of the problem. They also don't have great access to education, which means
Right.
as a stupidly empathetic person, some part of my brain knows that this is a systemic issue, the amount of hate that's in these spaces.
It is,
Um,
absolutely.
and so part of me is just pissed that I went through that and that other people go through that. And another part of me is like, on a bigger scale, though, be like, there's a inherently bigger problem here.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
it's my parents sending me off to college, but like they didn't, I was first gen, they didn't go. So
Hmm.
when we are trying to have these conversations, there is an inherent level of lack of access that they've had that creates a barrier between us being able to understand where each other is coming from, as hard as I have tried
Right.
to
Oh
have
yeah.
those conversations.
Yeah. I I understand. Oh my gosh. Oh, I got chills when you were talking because I'm just like, wow, I think that we've lived some similar experiences, and it's nice in a way to, years later to know that I wasn't alone going through those things. But like you said, I do get angry because I want it to be better, and the world deserves better, people deserve better, and they won't ever know any better if they can't learn and be exposed, and
Yeah.
etc. But that's not our job beyond what we can do as individuals, unfortunately.
It's such a balancing act because, I do think there's an obligation for me to do my part to what I can, but then the problem is it's a consistently re-traumatizing experience to try to go back and change it. But like, some part of me also is just like, well, it never gets better if we don't
Hmm.
try, even if it's
Right.
incremental. So we all
Yeah,
just do the best we can.
we do. We're doing great. We're doing great. But oh, okay. Well, we went a different direction than I thought. So if you want to ask a question, I'll save I'll save that next one.
Yeah, awesome. Um, so something that is an experience that you spoke about being really important in your life that I personally have never experienced. That fun thing like we're realizing things we have in common and then things we probably have different too and can learn from each other is your journey being adopted. And I was just curious, like, what is something about being adopted that you wish more people understood?
Oh gosh, that's it's a really tough thing because I think that when you tell someone you're adopted, their initial thought is how lucky, how great for you. Adoption is wonderful. And those things are true, right? Because if I had not been adopted, I would not be here right now. And I can just tell you that point blank, because I come from a family of addiction, of alcoholism, um, you know, and I have biological siblings who did not make it, unfortunately. So I just know that to be true. And so while I feel like I grew up with this guilt cloud over me of, how lucky am I that I was the lucky one, I made it out, um, and to have people that cared about me, I I don't think people give those that were adopted enough space to also deal with the hard parts of it. It is really hard to feel like you are the other, because that's how I felt my whole life. Um, I don't have that same connection to the parents that raised me, the family that raised me, especially because they were, you know, um, just a all white family, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's just who they are, But I was not able to get in touch with my identity until, like I said, in my 20s. I'm half Hispanic, I'm half Mexican, and that's a really important part of who I am. But I was not raised that way, and so I just think that my hope is that people will just hold space for people who have been lucky enough to be granted a second chance at life, but may have a lot of trauma and a lot of baggage and a lot of relearning to do that comes with that.
Yes, the adoption system is. I have had the blessing of learning a lot from folks on social media about exactly what you're talking about. And they're speaking out and saying, listen, like, yes, I am grateful for what I have, and that does not, I am not dismissing that, but you are creating a situation in which I cannot fully express myself. I'm not allowed to have any opinion about the suffering and trauma that I went through, in that process. And that is simply, oh, to not have a voice. I've been in that circumstance, not in those exact, in these exact places, but to not have a voice is, it's a brutal experience. It's tough. I'm sending you so much love, and chat is sending you a lot of love. I don't know if you're looking at it, but
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Yeah, and it's also like I don't often get a chance to talk about this, because it's also a bit of a taboo issue
mhm.
still in the United States and still around the world. So it's difficult because it's very multifaceted, it's very nuanced, and I'm just continually thankful I now have spaces in which I can express myself. I can start figuring these things out, and I'm away from having to pretend like I am,
Just
happy
so
and
happy
adopted and I'm here and I just need space to be a human. That's all I'm asking for.
and feel however I feel about it. Yeah,
Yeah.
proud of you. That's
Oh,
it's a long journey, I imagine. A long
it
journey.
is.
And
And it's,
probably one that's still.
yeah. I mean, I don't think I really started the journey until, just a couple years ago, really, even because I didn't even know I had a journey to go on for so long, because like you said, not having a voice, it really is like not having agency over yourself in a way, because you're raised to be one thing and conform to that set of values and whatever that group of people believes, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's what you believe or who you are as a person, and you have to decide that for yourself. Everyone does.
Yes, yes. The weird societal expectations around family are really hard to deconstruct. My parents are addicts, and I did live with them. So on the other side of the spectrum, I didn't lose my family, but it was a constant re-traumatization for to this day interacting with them. So I resonate with it. It not working the way that you're told it's supposed to, family, and like feeling like you're not supposed to say anything about that because you're supposed to present to the world. Your parents tell you that you're supposed to present to the world this image that our family is happy and doing well, and we weren't. We weren't, but there was this strange feeling of like not being grateful for what you have
Hmm.
if you talk about what is not good. When really what I learned as I grew up and became more emotionally attuned and had therapy and like
Therapy
learned
helps.
the fact that you can experience multiple emotions at the same time. Life is not so black and white, it
Hmm.
is very much in that gray area of like it can be. I feel like almost every lived experience is bittersweet, right? It is like the combination of pain and happiness and not just one way or the other, um,
Yeah.
which I certainly wish was more present, less performative in the world. But I try to surround myself in circles as much as possible that agree with those sentiments and make space
Hmm.
for that, because I can't change the world, but I can change the spaces that I spend my time
Right. And you should.
in. Yeah.
Oh, I'm hugging you.
I'm
I'm
also
hugging
hugging
you.
you from far
Oh,
away.
I feel it. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna.
Oh gosh,
Okay.
Amber. That just like Amber said, like, oh my goodness. I know. It's like when people are like, you're so strong, you're so resilient for what you went through. And like, yes, but please, like, the like, you should be grateful that like you wouldn't be who you were today without those experiences, and you should be grateful for them because they shaped you. I could have learned to be the person I was today without being like abused and manipulated. I could have. Like
100%.
that is the most
100%.
you're the word yeah.
Yes.
Somebody
People think it, sorry, go ahead.
no you.
I think it's hard because I do think that people mean well when they say things like that, right? So I'm not coming from a place of being so angry, but I think that people just need to realize that by saying that, and this happens to so many marginalized identities, it really does, by saying those things, that it's like, are you saying that all we are is our trauma? Because that's so often how I feel, that that's my only identity.
Oh
And
yes, especially on Twitch. Like I could go
mhm,
on about that for days because in the 9 months that I've been streaming, the most engagement I ever got was when I was being harassed,
oh my gosh.
which is representative of the world too, right? But
Yes.
looking at this small um, e- example this platform, I remember I will never forget the stream after I was like plastered on that like trans hate page and everyone saw it and whatever, um, because it was very surreal realizing trying to cope with the fact that some people were really there to be supportive, but some people were there to like witness my pain as a form of entertainment
Hmm.
because they never came back.
Yeah.
And this happens to creators often. I remember having a conversation about it, and like a lot of um, a lot of black creators talk about this on Twitter a lot, about how like whenever something traumatizing happens within their community, everyone starts showing up, but then as soon as they kind of forget about that event, then they leave.
Hmm.
And I I didn't know how to respond to those people in my chat who I'd never seen there before and who were only there to get the tea. Yeah.
Right.
Well, exactly what you're saying, Isa. Yeah. So Isa said people engage with BIPOC trauma more than our achievements, and
Yep.
you know, that's how I felt that day. Like I feel like if I tweet and I tweet about accessibility or queer identity, it tracks. Like people love to engage with it. I'm not telling you not to engage. I mean, I'm a content creator. We're in the business of engagement. But if I post about like having a good day or something that just like happened in my life,
Hmm.
it doesn't track the same way. And that does something to your psyche. Like to
It
feel like
does.
you can only talk about the bad things in life.
Hmm.
It's why in these questions, in these conversations, y'all, Jupiter and I talked a lot about making sure we ask also questions about joy and things people are passionate about, and that they have the opportunity to talk about the things that make them happy and can just jibber jabber about the things that they love, because I feel like we just don't get the space to just nerd and like love things and talk about them and be supported the same way when we're talking about traumatic things that have happened.
It's true, and it does wear you down over time. It does, and especially after you feel that you've got finally gotten to a place where you don't have to live these things constantly 24/7 after years of doing that. So we want to see more balance. We deserve that. Make sure you're there for everyone's success and joys and sponsorships and whatever it may be, just as much as you are there when they need to cry and let something out. Like
Yes.
it's really important.
It is. It makes us feel like otherwise I just feel like something that's there for people to feel better about themselves.
Hmm.
And that is meh. So, yes. Anyways, I didn't mean to derail the conversation, but it just came to mind and I think that's fine.
No, I think that's exactly why we're here.
um yeah, I think it's my turn to answer something.
Perfect. Okay, I'm gonna go back to my question from earlier because I'm really excited about it, and I
Okay.
think that it's a good transition. So I had this question asked of me recently. I was filling something out to get some graphics made, commissioned, and I thought that this was the coolest question, and I couldn't wait to ask it to you.
Okay.
So if you had to describe your online spaces that you curate, your community, as an event or gathering place, what would it be and why?
This is so amusing to me because I have an entire strategic plan. But anyways, so I think I asked something really similar on Twitter before, but for me, and I've told my community this before, and we literally do this in Discord, but like even on stream, the energy I really try to create is like 3 a.m. sleepover. You're hanging out with your friends, not like little kid sleepover, but like when you're
This is an
vibing.
adult sleepover.
This is an adult sleepover. Um, and there's like a point in the night where you get your second burst of energy, but you're still both like very tired. So everyone's just kind of like laying, sitting in the space together, drinking a drink, eating something, whatever. And you just kind of start sort of doing what we're doing right now. Just like asking each other questions, being vulnerable with each other, in a way that you maybe haven't seen that person before. Um, you're asking each other about like your philosophies about things in life in a way deeper way than like, you know, day to day life usually leaves space for. So that's the energy we try to recreate. I do struggle sometimes though because I feel like it doesn't align with the traditional view of what a stream is supposed to look like in terms of like it's that kind of conversation is very chill. It's deep, it's sometimes hard, it's sometimes having conversations with the community that I am trying to understand their perspective, and maybe people have a different perspective than I do. It is a little bit more deep and a little bit more serious, and I have always had a complex about like not being the friend people come to for their joy, only being the friend that people come to when they're struggling, because I do think I have, a natural instinct for supporting people and making them feel validated. But I do worry sometimes, like, you get a raid, for example. This happened the other night. I was going on about educational equity and talking about my experience as, like, an educator, and in the inaccessibility of the field and the way that students aren't supported the way they need to. Beautiful conversation, loved it, adored it, was probably one of my favorite streams ever. But you get like a raid and people maybe just came from like a hype fun stream where they're playing Mario Kart and they've walked in on you having that conversation, and
Right.
I don't know whether that's welcome, and I don't know how to bring people into the space at that point. um,
Hmm.
but I love it, I just don't know, it sometimes feels like I'm fitting a like square peg into a round hole, um,
Yeah.
which is important. I think we need different spaces. That's kind of the beauty of the way that you can curate on Twitch a community versus other social media platforms.
Hmm.
But it's the beauty and the struggle, I think.
It is, and I'm very much of the camp that thinks that when you're raiding into a channel, you will respect what's happening in that space. That's how I feel when I raid into a channel. Because sure, maybe we're going from Among Us to someone crying on their birthday stream about their accomplishments, or you know what I mean, a very different space, but you were going there to support that person and that community. And if you can't vibe with it, I guarantee you there's another stream you can watch.
9 million. Yeah, I'm a big person to say, I've said this to my community a lot of times when we have a troll or something, like, there are 9 million other broadcasters. If you don't like my boundaries, if you don't like the space we're curating here, that's fine. You don't need to announce your departure. Bye.
Yep, that's right. And I think, especially as a marginalized creator, you do not have to feel sorry about those things. I know that it's difficult. I think we all struggle with that because obviously you want people to feel welcomed. Ideally, new people will join the community if they vibe, you know. So you want to be cognizant of those things, but you protect those boundaries, B. They are sacred, and um, I we all love what you're doing, so you're doing the right thing.
Yes, anxiety just pokes its little rude head out sometimes, but that's part of
Sure
the journey
does.
too.
Learning to quiet the voice when necessary, but oh, it's hard.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I love that
Um,
question. I think I feel like I've heard you briefly talk about the sleepover thing, but I've never heard the full explanation. So that just made me happy, and I want to go to that sleepover also.
awesome. You're always welcome. I think it's interesting too, though, because so I have had a community member, without me prompting them, describe what they thought the space was like, and it wasn't the same. And I loved their description to it. And I don't know. I think maybe it's just because I'm still consider myself quite a baby streamer, and so I think we're still like navigating exactly what we want the space to be. I think the fundamentals are there, but day to day, there's some wavering that happens, and it was so wholesome. They described it as like hanging out in a treehouse, which was so niche, but so wholesome, and
That's so
probably
sweet.
like the best compliment I've ever received about like the work that like I do here.
I love that.
So,
That's great.
but yeah, okay. I feel like we can't just like move on and not have you tell us what your event space would be. Like that doesn't sit right
Okay.
with me.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And it's funny because I answered the initial question that I got of this. I answered it differently than I'm going to answer it now. So I'm amending my answer because I've learned since a couple weeks ago when I first thought about it. So my community, what can we say? We're in space, first of all. So I don't really know how we got there, but we're up there on planet Jupiter, no oxygen,
No
just
oxygen.
vibing. just vibing. And like you, I think it's very late at night. Um, I think of experiences I've had where I've been like at a music festival, but a camping festival. So, you know, you're staying there, you're camping out, and you're going to see some music late at night. You're in the very back with all your friends. You've got a blanket, everyone's chilling, but the music's pumping. We're at some sort of space rave. Everyone's getting their drinks. Of course, we're 18 plus. All adults are hanging out. We're dancing. We're dabbing. There's some video game consoles scattered around the venue, and it's a very fun, playful, joyful environment for friends to gather and I think have intimate conversations because you know the music's loud, so you got to get real close to talk to one another and
I love that.
whisper in each other's ears a little and share water, of course, because it's hot.
We're in a
And it's
pandemic, Jupie. You can't be sharing
well,
water.
we're fully vaccinated. We're fully
Just kidding.
vaccinated.
I'm just kidding.
Everyone's
Ah.
fully vaccinated, I promise.
I'm
And
only teasing you because somebody made like a TikTok where they were like that what are examples of things that you used to do
we can't do
before the
anymore.
pandemic that you can't even fathom that you ever used to do that, and it was a creator who goes to a lot of festivals, and she was like, just like the way we share things at
Everything.
festivals.
You basically cannot go to festivals the same way because you would share water, gum, money, all very dirty things.
Yeah. Anyways, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No,
I
that's
just had to
perfect.
give you a little good heckle there.
That's so funny. Gosh, it's gonna be so different going back to music festivals. But anyway, yeah, I think we're at a late night space rave on Jupiter.
I love that. I love
That's
that.
it.
Um, let's see. Not gum. Annie says
Not
not gum.
not like out of your mouth and then sharing it, but I just mean out of the same pack.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I also thought you meant. That's what it
But you
sounded
know what
like.
else people share is like the weed pens,
Yes.
all that stuff that you put your mouth on. I don't think that's ever, the vapes. I don't think that's ever gonna be the same.
Oh my goodness gracious. That yeah. Um so one thing a question I definitely wanted to make sure I snuck in here. It's one of my favorite
Mhm.
questions to ask people just in general. It's like what is something about you that you would like to talk about more or share about more, but no one ever asks you, so you don't necessarily feel like you have the space?
Oh, I'm very nervous for this one. But I think that's good. I think that's the point, right? Because it's something that I don't get to talk about very often. So I think that something that I felt so lost about my entire life is being mixed race. Um, you know, there's no guidebook. There's no readily available answers on um, where you fit in when you're half white and half Hispanic, when you're a mixed race of any kind, because I've never fit in anywhere in my whole life. I was never white enough to be accepted by all the kids I went to school with in the small town, and I've never been Hispanic enough to really be seen as Latina for a lot of my life. So I think that Twitch has been wonderful because I've been able to find more people that are like me, whether they're mixed race, whether it's just me connecting with Latin creators, so I can start to learn more about our different cultures and things like that. And that's been really helpful. But I that's something that I just wish overall was talked about more, because I never know where I fit in, and I never have the answers. People come to me asking things in my space, and I'm like, yes, let's talk this out, because I don't know either. Let's work through this together. Um, but that's definitely something that I wish was talked about more. Was just like the mixed race experience, and um, feeling like we're like kind of in limbo and not really knowing where we go.
Mhm.
Um, because it's very weird for sure, and especially being light skinned, like obviously I know that I'm flushed with privilege and things like that, but that doesn't mean that I haven't experienced my own struggles with my race identity, and I haven't been called slurs and um, different things like that as well, but it's like I'm not allowed to talk about those things, it feels like, often, because you know I'm not fully Hispanic, and so I don't understand the full struggle,
Yeah.
or that's kind of how it's been portrayed to me. And I had a family that was all white, and basically they raised me as white, and um, changed my hair, my eyebrows, all sorts of things, because they didn't know, and two, they wanted me to fit in as much as possible. That's how they were protecting me, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so it did come from a place of love, but years later, obviously that fucked me up
Yeah.
as I'm trying to get in
Of
touch
course.
with myself,
Yeah.
and
Things probably just felt off and wrong for a long time before you could figure out. Yeah.
it was like, and it's small things a lot of the time too, so it's not life ending things, but it's like going to school and being made fun of for my unibrow, because I had very bushy, thick, hairy eyebrows and dark hair all over my body, and then my parents just waxing it off and waxing my eyebrows super thin for years so I wouldn't have to deal with that anymore. But looking back, it's like, I
never
looked
having
like
the actual conversation with you about why that
yeah.
was happening and give your brain the ability to process the information of like what was actually happening around you is important.
Yeah. And so just like now trying to figure those things out at 27 years old is I wish I had the time and space to figure that out as I was growing up, you know.
Yeah.
So that's something that that's probably my biggest identity struggle, even more so than being queer. I found my queer journey to be full of joy for the most part. Which has been so amazing. But my struggle with my identity of being mixed race has been very difficult, and I found little answers you know, not much support along the way, just because people don't know.
Yeah.
They don't understand the experience unless they've lived it. You know.
Well, and from the sounds of it, it sounds like your journey being adopted also complicates it in a way that makes the pool of people who can understand what you've gone through even smaller.
I mean, it was just non-existent for so many years of my life. And I'm so thankful to be, you know, the nest, the team. We have so many Latin creators, and I've met so many on Twitch, and like it's really just changed my life. And people in my community who have always said, like, you know, you are who you are, and that will always be valid, and you are allowed to get in touch with your identity. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise. You know, it's been life changing for sure, but it's been difficult.
You have come so far, but I'm very proud of you, but I'm sorry that it has been so tumultuous along the way.
Ain't that life?
Ain't that life? Ain't that life?
But thank you for giving me, you know, the space to open up about it, because even just doing that is like just peeling back the layers a little bit
It's
at a time and realizing it's okay to talk about these things and not be afraid of who I am and, you know, who I'm going to be.
a little bit of healing, one little like moment at a time.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. I want to ask you the same thing. This is another question that I think has to go both ways.
Oh gosh. Um I think living with parents who are addicts, and in the sense that like I mention it often because it's fundamental to who I am, but um, it's like the scenes that I vividly remember that sit with me day to day or come back up that I never feel like anyone's really ready to hear. So I just don't actually um, explain to people what that looked like. Um, and I think that that like hurts me along the way because it, it truly like is probably of everything that I've gone through in my life probably the thing that influences me the most. Like I did a lot of research on that experience in college. I used like a lot of research projects that we had as an opportunity to try to understand the logic behind some of it, and I learned a lot about this idea of parentification, and which is basically my parents inappropriately treated me like an adult in the space, and I was exposed to way more than a child is supposed to be um, proposed, like supposed to be shown, and that fundamentally put me in a position where everyone was like, you know, you're so mature, you're so helpful in navigating conversations in every job I'm in every space I am in. I am the conflict manager. Like, even in spaces where I'm not in charge, I wind up being the person who's navigating really complex emotional situations because I was a freaking therapist for my parents at like 16 years old. Um, like I remember all of this probably should have been like all of our entire conversation probably should have been started with a TW, but like to give you an example of a situation, because I just talked about how I always talk about it but never talk about it, I'm going to try to actually like open myself up to talk about like a situation I remember. And I just distinctly recall like sitting on the floor while my parents were both sitting on the couch and literally like being like, okay, we need to stop because you're screaming, and like turning to one and like forcing them to give me their perspective and talk what they were saying, and then rewording that to make sure the other one could understand, and like stopping them from like, because they would start to be like, no, 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 that's not what happened. And I'd be like, okay, but we're not going to do that, right? Because this isn't working. We're not hearing each other. So let's all, well, I'm over here working so hard to rectify this situation. They're drunk and high. It's
Mhm.
not, they're not with me. Um, and so I just felt like I put the time that I was supposed to be figuring out who I was, all of that energy was extended to them.
Mhm.
And so I resonated a lot when you were talking about like basically not figuring out who I was till I was in my 20s. I didn't have time or space.
Right.
Um, I was desperately trying. I put everything into school with the attempt to get the hell out of Dodge, basically. I needed to get out, and I didn't see, as a first generation low income student, like, we didn't have money, so I wasn't going to get out that way. So the
Mhm.
only chance I stood was to basically childhood perfectionism, like get straight A's, join every club, be the so that I could basically pave my way to something different. And I did, but the consequence was I didn't play.
Mhm.
I didn't have joy, like playful moments that you're supposed to have when you're a kid. That's like the one time in your life that the world is set up in a way for you to play and explore. Um, and I have to do it within the confines of adulthood and capitalism and working, and it just doesn't. It's not the same.
No.
There's a lot of like challenges that are so different from when you're a kid, getting the opportunity to explore and make mistakes. There's a lot more room for falling on your face when you're a
Mhm.
kid. As an adult, people expect you to have your shit together.
Yeah.
Um, Unreasonably so, because literally none of us do, but it just, it fundamentally it fundamentally changed who I was. I think it has a big part in my mental health and chronic illness problems, because
Mhm.
I carried all of that in me with no outlet for like 20 years. And that just doesn't, the PTSD from that just doesn't disappear. um,
Right.
Unfortunately, sometimes I wish I could just like,
Yeah.
but
I wish it was that easy.
yeah.
And yeah, I mean, you basically had to hold all of that inside you, in your body, in your heart, in your mind, you know. Um, so thank you for letting it out a little bit here. I hope that it helps. It's hard to talk about these things because people, they don't want to hear it. They don't want to they don't want to imagine that people, didn't have a normal childhood, because it's, oh, what do you mean? Like, that's so weird. But I think that people would be so surprised to know at how many how many kids don't grow up in the nuclear family, the whatever it may be.
I think the more we talk about it, though, the more we're just gonna realize that we're like people who didn't have that experience are actually the majority.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that having these conversations, hopefully normalizing it a little more, and um, also just hoping that one day there will be less people that have to grow up that way, you know? But it's not easy. And you, you're incredible. You've done such a great job of, holding that. And I understand being the you were the success when you were a child, right? Because you had to be. You had to put your best foot forward in every single situation, because you knew that you didn't want that to be your life, and you knew that you wanted to get away and create your own world, um, and you did that.
Yeah. Yeah. It still sits. weird. Um, I don't know if you resonate with this at all, but like I still have moments in my life where I really wish for and crave like the like when things aren't going well and you can't I can't just like call my parents the way that people can.
Mhm.
And you just kind of got to figure it out on your own. And that
Oh
is
yeah.
but that is
Oh
some
yeah.
um it's it's not having that security of
Mhm.
um when things go awry, I know exactly where I'm gonna go. There's a lot more like every time, like who do I call? And like I have an array of wonderful people in my life. But there's a big difference between a wonderful person and someone I can call and say like, can I like stay on your couch? And I don't know for how long. Like
Right.
those are two very different things, and to know the difference between them until you've asked and then had it not hit and
Mhm.
not known where you're going next and not being sure if you can ask
Mhm.
again, it's an inexplicable thing to not have any security net,
Yes.
and it plays a fundamental role in like my struggle to be brave sometimes, because I feel like there are things that people feel that they can do because if it doesn't work, um, they have people who will get them through that like lull period, and
Yes.
some people don't. Some of us, if we want to take the risk, we have to take it with full awareness that the consequences that could happen won't we will just have to basically have them hit us head on.
Right. And you'll have to be prepared to deal with whatever comes falling down with that. It's the safety net, like you said. They you have wonderful people in your life, and they're that's amazing. You're so thankful for them, but it is different, and it's an inexplicable loneliness that you just kind of hold in your heart because you're doing this yourself, and you got to count on you to get through, and it is very difficult. Yeah, and I get that. I mean, I feel like I've had so many conversations before where people have said like, oh, yeah, I'm gonna quit my job, I don't like it, or I'm gonna go on this trip, but I'll be broke after. I don't know, whatever it may be, because they say, oh well, I live at home, or I'll just move home for a
My
couple
favorite is when they
months.
don't say that though. My favorite is when they don't say
Oh, when they
that
don't
and
want to own up to
they
it.
present it to the world like, "Oh, I did this incredibly brave thing." And then you're like, "Oh, like could you share a little bit about that experience, cuz like I'm kind of feeling like I want to do that, but I'm scared." And they're like, then it comes to the surface that you're like, "Oh, it really wasn't actually a risk for you at all."
Right.
Got it. Good. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for
Yeah.
that.
And in there's nothing, there's nothing wrong with that. Look, I wish everyone had a great supportive family that would catch them every time they
I
fall.
don't
That'd
want
be
you
the
to have suffered like I have,
that's
but
the
it's
ideal world.
but it's the
But
pretends.
yeah, that's the
Yeah.
hard part. That's the hard part. Yeah, because I mean, I, God, I mean, I moved out on my own when I was 17. I've lived on my own since I was 17 years old, so I completely understand. And like I remember, like 3 years, or let's see, maybe it was like a year and a half after college. I had just moved back to California. I was so broke. I was the brokest I've ever been. I was negative broke. And I remember calling my parents, and this is the only time I've ever asked for money, ever, in my entire life, in my adult life, and getting laughed at. And it was at that moment that I was like, okay, yeah, I'm really doing this on my own. I
You
really got to
have to
figure
believe
it
in
out.
yourself in a way that I don't think other people have to.
Right.
I remember being in therapy and her being like, basically, if you want to take leaps in your life, it's gonna look like not having faith in other people to catch you when you fall. It's gonna look like you having faith that, not that you're gonna catch yourself, because you can't, right? Like, you're not superhuman. But you have to believe that you can overcome whatever hardships and falls you're gonna have.
Right.
And that is just a different kind of fear.
It is, and it's lonely. It really is. It's lonely because people, I do think they often misunderstand why you have to do things a certain way, why you have to be so rigid about things, why you have to firmly say no, or, whatever it may be. No, I have to work every day. No, I can't just take that time off. No, I can't just be late for work because I can't lose my job.
Yep.
Like these are, and this is true for so many people. So many people just trying to survive. It's
Well, and so many of us who grew up in similar circumstances to some of the things that we've talked about um, today have lived their entire life in survival mode. They have not been given. I have not had the luxury to live life in, they talk about survive versus thrive. I haven't had the circumstances yet in life to feel like I can thrive without a level of, without the, I'm not saying I haven't accomplished things, that things haven't happened that have been amazing in that sense of thriving, but like, to not have an element of survival concern always laying in the background of those moments, always tainting. Every good thing that happens in my life comes with a, when is the other shoe gonna drop?
right.
Is
Yeah.
this sustainable? Will it
Yeah.
stay? So, yeah,
Yeah.
this is
And it
totally.
really is like, it's like I can always picture like this dark shadow in my mind's eye, just there, asking those questions. And I've never known a time where that hasn't been looming over me, and like even just thinking about, what I want to do in the future, full-time content creation, whatever it may be. It's like, well, uh, what happens if everyone leaves? It's like, and you don't have a job. It's like, okay, well, we can't
and
do that.
and you know what? And it happens. I get so frustrated as a person who has experienced like traumatic moments in life, to the people who are like, that doesn't happen. It's happening, y'all. I'm it's happening to people right now as the world is
Yes, it
reopening.
is.
There are full-time content creators I know who cannot say online, they cannot talk about it, but they do not have enough money to pay their bills because the world reopening has fundamentally shifted viewership in the last 2 weeks. And that is not on, I hesitate to say stuff like that because then sometimes people feel like obligated, like they're not doing enough. That's on Twitch, right? Like, not
Right.
creating a system in which you're asking for full-time work, but you are not creating full-time support for
Right.
situations like this. But um, this is one situation applicable to anything. It's very frustrating to me when I hear people dismiss the fears of things that could possibly go wrong in circumstances like this. I could wake up tomorrow and everything I've worked towards be gone for a multitude of different reasons. And then what? What is
Right.
left?
There's no backup plan for so many of us.
Well, and
There's
it's absolutely exhausting to always think about having to have a backup plan and trying to maintain. Some of us, raise your hand if you are trying to maintain a backup plan as you're doing your current plan and constantly on the verge of burnout because it's impossible to do both plans at the same time, but you try because you don't feel safe enough doing plan A
hmm
alone.
hmm it's real.
People are like, why don't you take breaks and whatever? I'm like, I work 3 jobs.
No
When would
time for a
you
break.
when would you like me to take a break?
Uh,
I work my fundamentally required job because I need one consistent income. That doesn't even really give me enough income. I have Twitch and my passion and what I'm working towards. That's plan A. That's the real thing we're working on, and we've got other backup things I do to make sure I'm doing okay. And that's just
hmm
too much for anyone, but so many of us are in the same boat.
Yeah.
just trying to survive.
Trying to survive. And I hope it helps for people to one hear this because they may be experiencing similar things even if they're not content creators. This could be anyone that's doing these things. I think I know more people working two or more jobs than I do working one job. This is just truly
Especially in
the
the
society
pandemic.
that we live in. Yeah. And two, I hope that obviously it's just a reminder to just be kind, go easy on everyone, meet everyone where they're at because we are really all trying our best and trying our
We're
hardest.
all in the thick of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh, that's
Also,
so true.
Kate and friends, if you're still here, welcome in. Where are we at?
I think. Oh, me?
Maybe.
Might be.
I really don't
Might,
remember at this point.
I think it's me. Let me go to my list.
If y'all are not already, I haven't been really talking about raids, but I adore Kate, and if y'all are not already following her, she is. I want to say she's like a ray of sunshine who streams in the middle of the night.
Oh,
It's kind of like a interesting juxtaposition.
okay. Let's see.
Yeah, same.
Oh, this is a good one. While we're stressed, let's get away from the computer. Let's imagine we're taking a break.
Okay.
Let's imagine we have time and space for a break that won't break you. What does a perfect day look like for B away from the computer?
Oh. Hmm. Perfect day away from the computer. I'm a big fan of um, cafes. Like on a day
Mm.
I do for myself, to like take the train, go out to a cafe, solo or with friends are both very vibey, um, and just sit and kind of like work on our own whatever, whether that's like reading a book or coloring or talking or just existing in that space and doing some like people watching and seeing who else is in that space and what they're doing. I think it's just an energy that is like not super recreatable. I don't know. It's kind of like what you were saying, like when you're at a festival, right? Like I just really
Mhm.
enjoy the energy of a shop, just watching people kind of get their little joy of the day as they walk in. They like just need that coffee, and it puts a smile on their face. Um, this I'm saying all this and realizing. Um, it might make sense why I work at Starbucks now, but um,
This makes sense. Makes
um,
perfect sense all of a sudden.
all of a sudden, I'm thinking to myself, like, maybe somewhere deep down, I was trying to recreate that experience for other people. Anyways, um, like a good daytime. Toasty, I know you were trying to make a pun like bee arista, but it looks like beer arista.
Barista? That's a different type of shop, I think.
I think you might have needed like a hyphen in there or something. Um, And I also would love to like follow that. Like if I went to the coffee shop like solo, I love journaling and I don't give myself enough time to do it. So I think I would probably sit and journal at the cafe and then probably make some plans with some friends in the evening.
Hmm.
And I'm a big fan of like a very cozy, very casual little like house gathering. Like not going out, not like
Mhm.
not on the dance floor. Maybe that's like my disabled ass showing, but like I'm too tired. I'm too old and too tired most of the
Show
time
your ass, B.
to
Show your ass.
to
We accept
go
you.
to go out in the way that a lot of people want to, but like bring my friends over, let's make them some drinks. I like to make some alcoholic or non if people don't want smoothies is one of my favorite things to
Ooh,
make, and then
alcoholic smoothie. I've not
it's
had that.
it's quite nice. You get to hide all. It's quite nice, but it's quite dangerous because it doesn't taste like alcohol.
That's my favorite kind of drink.
um, and then like play some board games is one of my absolute favorite things to do. I love playing board games with some friends. So just like very lightly tipsy chats and board games to finish out the night is probably an ideal day that's not centered around my computer, which hasn't been much lately.
Well, that's why I thought it was important to ask because I think that those days are important and it's good to remind ourselves to try and get away from the screen when we can.
Yeah.
I love that. That sounds like a
That
great
was
day.
part of the reason I picked up the Starbucks job too, was that like when I was working my other full-time job that was work from home, like
Mhm.
I was literally on the computer for like 12 hours a day. And
Yeah.
like what choice, like I had
Hmm.
work in the morning for 8 hours and I had stream 2 hours later that had to be
Right.
prepared for. And I adore what I was doing, but it was doing something to me to be one on the computer all day and two looking at myself all day because we were in
Hmm.
Zoom meetings and then I was on OBS, so I just needed some different energy, and that has been nice. Like
That's good.
getting
Yeah,
out of the
that's
house, taking the train, getting seeing people out in the world, even though
yeah.
sometimes they're annoying.
Sometimes they are annoying.
Customers are interesting sometimes.
Yeah. You kind of just get what you get and you have to deal with it.
What board games do I like? My favorite board games are
Ooh.
Ticket to Ride and Betrayal at the House on the Hill.
I don't think I've played either of those. What? Those sound great.
Ticket
I'll
to
have to
Ride
look
is
those up.
like you're creating trains across the United States, and then
Hmm.
well, there's a world one too, and the Betrayal at the House on a Hill is like if you were watching a scary movie but in a board game form, and you're in like a haunted house with your friends, and then at some point, somebody becomes the traitor. They're the haunting happens, and they're haunted, and they basically turn on you, and they have a different set of rules, and you have a different set of rules, and basically whoever accomplishes their tasks first wins. So you either escape the haunted house and like live, or the traitor kills you, pretty much.
Oh, I gotta play that. That sounds right in my wheelhouse. That
It
sounds fun.
it's very good. I like it a lot because there's over 50 stories, so every time you play
Ooh,
feels really different.
that's cool.
In terms of like what is the haunted story, right? Like who are you and who is the traitor and why does they wanna kill you?
Right. Oh, wow. They really went in depth. That's very, very cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Um, let's see. Um, the next question I have here is what is the biggest risk you've ever taken?
Wow. That is. I feel so. I feel the pools of reflection in this question because I'm getting ready to take another really big risk. I feel like my life has just been kind of upping a risk one right after the other. It's like, how do you
I
quantify
sense so
that?
much joy in whatever this new journey is though. Like your face lit up.
Yes, no, it's a lot of joy. It's something that I've been working towards for a long time, and I'm doing it. So we'll see how it goes, but we're not quite there yet. But it made me think of that. So yes, it's joyful. I think the biggest risk that I have taken so far is 13 days after I graduated college in Wisconsin. I moved to the West Coast. I moved to California by myself. And that was, it was wild. I was told constantly that I shouldn't do it. How are you going to survive there not knowing anyone? You know, California's full of crazy people. Like, people in the Midwest have this very wild
Sounds familiar.
perception of other places because they don't ever leave the state they live in.
Yeah.
So they just think that everywhere else is like dangerous or something.
Scary.
Yeah, and scary, I guess. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're afraid of the unknown. So But yeah, I mean, that was always my plan. That was always the life path I was going to take. I was born in California. That's where I'm from. And I lived there until I was 11, and then I moved to the Midwest. Actually, in the middle of a school year, I was kind of ripped from everything I knew, to go to what I thought was a very scary place. So growing up, I always knew I was going to go back. I was going to come back to the West Coast somehow, some way. And so I just said, yeah, okay. As soon as I graduate, I'm going. I'm driving out there, and I did that, and it was terrifying for sure. I was beyond broke for the first 2 years, working 2 or 3 jobs at a time, not acting, um, and just trying to kind of find my footing, find my place in the world, find like-minded people, whatnot. And it was a huge risk, but I'm so glad I did it. I it was what I needed to do, and now I'm here because I made that decision, and it started me off on my path of really truly discovering myself and what I want to be, and what I bring to the world. So yeah, it was
Which
it
is
was
a
a really
lot.
big.
You bring a lot to the world, by the way.
Thank you. So do you. It was high risk, high reward.
Yeah.
The payoff was very slow though. The payoff was very very slow.
You know, that description I do think feels accurate to pretty much every risk situation in life. Like, high risk, high reward, but people think the reward is immediate, and
Mhm.
most of the time it is slow and tenuous.
Yeah, it's a slow burn. I wanted it to be immediate. That was my goal. It's like, oh, maybe I'll get discovered or whatever. Maybe I'll get lucky. I'll be in the right place at the right time. But I like the slow burn. I think that it provides time and space for self discovery, self reflection, vetting out the people you do actually want to keep in your life, which is a hard process that takes a lot of time. And so I like the slow burn. I've become a fan of it. I've become a fan of it over the years.
I have had, yeah, I agree. I agree. And I think it's part of what people kind of approach me a lot in the content creation world of like, B, how are you so like pretty, for the most part, pretty chill about the things that freak a lot of other people out, like the numerical side of Twitch and things like that. And I'm like, for the most part, I am happy to grow slowly because it gives me time to grow with my community. Because there are
Mm-hmm.
a lot of things you have to learn along the way. Um, no one wants to talk about the flaws of growing really fast, but I had one period in my journey that was like, for no reason, just happened. It was luck. I mean, it was hard work, but it was also luck. And well, it was beautiful, and I met really amazing people. It was also really overwhelming because
Mm-hmm.
I was having to basically like run to keep up with where I should have been at that, needed to be to meet my people where I needed to meet them at that point. And I have talked to other friends who've had that same experience. I've talked a lot about it with my moderator Atmos too, and just like the grass is greener on the other side in this realm, right? Like the people who are growing slowly are like, ah, you're so lucky you grew fast, and the people who are growing fast are like, y'all really don't understand that this is not butterflies and rainbows. There is a lot of difficult things and challenges you run up against that you don't have the background to know exactly how to handle in those moments. And
Right.
that's applicable beyond Twitch, but just something I feel like people don't talk about enough.
I agree, and I think also just like finding people that want to grow with you and want to actually be be in your life beyond just kind of a surface level superficial way, which
Yes.
I understand, like And once again, I think this is true outside of Twitch, but with Twitch, like I understand there's like the viewer streamer relationship, there's a clear boundary there and whatnot. But I feel like we both have very personable communities. We have communities in which we invest time into getting to know people and uplifting the people in our communities because in turn that comes back to you, you
Oh, 100.
know?
It's a reciprocal relationship,
It
100%.
is. Yeah. And I don't think I could do something
Anything
that wasn't
else.
that. Yeah, that's
Hmm.
just not who I
And
am
I
as a
think that's
person.
I think that's where I see a lot of people feel a sense of disappointment even when they're getting what they wanted, but it's not genuine. Like the beauty is the community. So if you're not actually building a community, you're just performing, very quickly you're going to realize that even though you're hitting all the marks that everyone's saying, it doesn't sit the same. It doesn't have the same value. And I want to, um, this is a conversation I've had with people about partnership. My community is very cute, and they're like, Beaver Partner 2021. And I've talked to them a lot of times about, y'all, like, I don't want to rush that. That is going to come when it is supposed to, and that is important that it comes as it's supposed to, because that's when we'll be ready for it.
Right.
Me and all of us who are a part of this journey. Um, Authenticity and transparency, I'm a big fan of, but the industry is not always.
Yeah, it's true. And I'm right there with you. I was 6 months into my streaming career. I was close. I was almost there, and everyone was like, "We're gonna do it," and it was happening so fast. I was like, "Oh, I couldn't even keep up," you know. And now, I was actually just talking to one of my teammates about this earlier because everyone is experiencing dropped viewership right now. Like we said, the world opening back up, and it's
People
affecting
taking
people.
care of themselves
You know,
outside of Twitch and outside of, and
right?
I'm happy for them, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
But like, uh,
yeah,
being that the system is set up in a way that
right.
that is the only measurement we get to present of our worth,
That's a flaw of the system, not of
not
us.
of us and not of our communities,
Right.
who
Not of
need
the
to
viewers.
go out and work now and take care of
Yes.
themselves. And
And be human beings.
exactly, so many people come in and
Oh.
apologize, and that's where the sorry command came in, because
No
like I was
sorry.
like, y'all, listen, like I don't, this sounds so weird, the beginning of the sentence sounds so weird, I don't want you here if it does not serve you right
Hmm.
now. I
Right.
do not want you here out of a sense of obligation.
Yep.
And if you need time, we will be here when you are ready. If
Yeah.
you are ever ready.
Right.
And it'll be like you never left. Everyone is just gonna welcome you with open arms.
Yeah.
And it's where like people get caught up with some things that really bother them, and I'm like, you need to think a little bit bigger picture here. Like,
Hmm.
people, for example, one that always gets people riled up when I say this, but like, I don't care if someone tells me that they're gonna go watch someone else stream. I don't care. And the reason being is that if that is the energy you need today, then I am proud of you for going where you need to be. And I will be here for the days that I am the energy that you need.
Hmm.
Um, and uh, that doesn't, I have the confidence in my soul to know that that has nothing to do with me. It has
Right.
to do with what you need today. And the reason that is because I am also a, I like to participate in communities on this platform as a watcher too.
Hmm.
And on different days, I enjoy different people. And that has absolutely nothing to do with them. It has to do with me that day. It has
Hmm.
to do with maybe I'm low energy, low spoons, and I'm gonna go watch a soft crafting stream where the
Right.
energy is very chill, and I can't handle the overstimulation of hype, like let's go, let's go, let's go energy. Or maybe I'm sad and I want to be with community, and I want to be somewhere where there's going to be a lot of chatting and we're playing games together, and that's like, it doesn't have to do with me. And that's just like a very niche example of like making sure that when things are bothering you or things are getting under your skin, establishing and like grounding yourself in your
Mm-hmm.
why. What am I here for? What is the purpose? And like if that thing doesn't affect that main core value, don't let it sit on you so heavy.
Right. Yeah, I completely agree. I can't believe it's almost time. I
I
feel like
know.
I didn't even get to two sections of the questions. I was
I
so worried
did
I wouldn't have
see
enough.
I did see how many questions you had and thought to myself, we are never gonna get through that many questions, but it was very wholesome that you were so prepared.
I was like, I really spent a good few hours yesterday and today because I was like, I want to make sure I'm ready and I want to make sure I ask good questions because B deserves that. And of course, conversation takes over, and I'm
Yeah.
so happy. That's the point.
Yeah.
But it's just so funny.
It's
The
very
anxiety
funny.
brain was
Yeah.
telling me, no, we need 20 questions at least.
um I think I asked you the last question if you want to do one more each, and if we go a little over, that's okay. I think it would be good to just to know you're asking the last question to get to pick whatever that is.
Thank you. Okay, let's see. Ooh, the last two questions are both good. Okay, this is something I really wanted to talk about with you. So, my last question will be, how do you define success?
Oh. Mm, um, it's cheesy, and we talked about it a bit already, but it's authenticity. It like that is like at the core of what I would consider in any situation successful. Whether we like get to the thing that we wanted to get to necessarily, it's kind of like how you and I were talking about like to let the conversation flow in these versus forcing our way through performing through a list of questions that we have is very representative of like how I think about a successful project. Like, did you pause when you needed to assess how you were feeling, reflect on your journey, make course corrections? I see so many people like chase something so hard that they get there and realize they didn't it isn't even what they wanted because they never took the time to reflect and breathe um, and you stomp on people when you do that. You don't mean to, probably, but you do. You stomp on people, and I have been stomped on, and I don't want to ever do that to other humans. And so for me, it is about taking breaks and pausing and being willing to sacrifice perfection and what is supposed to be done in the name of authenticity along the way, and that in any circumstance is what I think is success, is just authentic actions that align with my values. It's when I feel I've gone awry from that trajectory where I'm like, okay, I'm not feeling successful right now. I'm feeling like I'm not meeting my mark. um,
Mhm.
Less than a specific goal and not meeting that. Of course, that I'm not saying that I won't be disappointed, right? Like that's an
Right.
unrealistic. I don't want to present it as some like idealistic like I'm never frustrated when I don't hit a goal that I want. Like I'm a human being. And you're allowed to be frustrated when you don't hit the goals that you want, but I do think that on a greater scale, most of the time after I'm able to work through that sort of surface level emotion of frustration, and let that go, it comes down to okay, but along the way, was I myself or was I performing what I thought I was supposed to do? And that inherently is what is the defining factor for me.
Thank you. That's beautiful. I put that question last because I I see you as very successful in your authenticity, and that's something that I also feel is a great marker for success. So I was just wondering where your mind goes when you think of those things, and um, just a reminder that you're amazing, and I love everything you're doing.
If I wasn't excited for this before, I'm even more excited now. Like, to get to
I'm
do
so
this every
excited.
week is truly a dream.
I think it's going to be life changing. I really do. Like, I really think that we're going to just come out on the other side, and hopefully all of the guests will as well, and the viewers just hearts open. We've learned things, we've grown together,
I feel closer
and
to you. I feel closer to
mhm,
the people in chat. You know, I didn't read your messages out loud, but I read them.
mhm.
I read the things
Yeah,
you were sharing with me, and I feel closer to each and every one of you who's here right now, which is amazing.
yeah. Everyone who is here, experiencing this with us and holding our hands along the way, like it's all part of the journey.
Also fun. No one else is ever going to be able to say they were at the first one.
That's right. This is
When
special.
this is whatever it is, and when we get done with our current lineup, which is February 2022,
Wherever we are at that moment.
wherever we are in that moment, wherever you are in that moment. Yeah. All right. My last question for you, Jupiter, is what is the thing you're most proud of in life?
Oh my gosh. Hmm. I'm happy that I feel proud of a lot of things that I have to think about this. So that's cool. You know, I'm really proud of my persevering. Um, that's just overarching. I'm really proud that I did not give up the many times I have wanted to, both on individual projects and things I've been working on, jobs and just life itself, because there have been many a dark points in my life that I didn't think that I could go on. I didn't think anyone cared about me. I felt really alone. So I'm just really proud to be here. And I'm really proud to be doing something really cool with you and with all these people. And um, just proud to be alive.
Yeah. You know what? And I think that that is going to be a sentiment that is carried throughout the people we have and myself, because that's how I feel too. Like that's kind of where I land in that question is like I'm just happy that I fucking made it through that shit. Like, and I'm still here, standing here in front of you and like
Thank
trying.
God. Yeah, thank goodness, because there's so many times when it doesn't seem like anything this joyful or this open, and this full of love could be a reality. And it is. We're
It
here.
is. Yeah. And I'm seeing Eva's message and all of your messages, and I want you to know I'm happy I'm alive, I'm happy Jupie's alive, and I am happy each and every one of you is here and alive for whatever it is that you've trekked through, similar or different to any of the stories that we shared today.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
This is one of those things that the end is going to be weird every time, I think, trying to
Yeah.
figure out how you wrap something like that up, but I think a thank you and a gratitude is just probably the only way I can. Yeah. Yes.
I think that's right. I think a deep breath together, and just, thank you for being here. And
Take care of yourselves. I think is a really important thing that I want to emphasize before we ever head off from something like this is just conversations like this, whether you're participating or you are whether you're participating or just observing, can bring up feelings and can bring up past experiences that you've had, and I encourage you to be gentle with yourself um, in the next day or so as those might hit you, because I've been there before. And I just want to remind you that, like, if tomorrow you're feeling a little in your feels after all of the conversation, and you're going, why am I feeling like this? I don't understand. Nothing happened. It did. When we exchange emotions in these ways, something does happen. Yeah. Anything else you want to say, love?
We did it.
We did it! We
Now
did it!
we can do anything now.
I feel good.
This is
I
the
feel
hardest one.
good. And I will say that our amazing, amazing, amazing first guest is on Sunday. So it is not far. Like 2 days from now.
2 days away.
So
You can hear
normally you'll only get this energy once a week, but today you get a little extra. And I know M, who we're gonna meet on Sunday. I have met in person. I've had the pleasure. And they are just an absolutely incredible human being who has gone through a lot in their life and still is alive and doing this doing the thing, and I'm very excited for that. So um rating is also something I did not account for in thinking about how you move on
Yeah.
from this energy. But you know what, I have such a sense of gratitude for you all being here that I do think it's important we pass on the love, but feel free to raid and run. It is late. This was a lot of emotions, but just like, let's go put a smile on somebody's face.
We
Oh
can't
no.
just stop love here.
Oh
Oh,
no.
he spoke too soon.
Not Nightbot eating your main messages too. Hi friends. I'm so sorry. Um, you've actually entered on the end of our show, but hi Lovable. Thank you so much for bringing your community over. Um, we might have to do a little raid train though. If y'all are willing to come along for the ride. No, Lucy, please don't apologize. It has happened to me truly a million times. I've done that so many times. Do not worry at all. But friends, welcome in. If you're new here, my name is B. I use they them pronouns. I am a queer and disabled variety streamer. We are doing a talk show today, or we were, and this is my lovely co-host. I'll let them introduce themselves.
Hello, my name is Jupiter. I use she, they pronouns. Welcome in, everybody.
Yes. Can we get a little shout out for Jupiter, please? We are hosting all of these things on my channel, but they are an incredible content creator, and if you enjoyed their energy tonight, they deserve all of the love as well. I okay. Um, I do have a bean that I see is live. It is Pride Month. They are a queer bean, and they are playing Hades, which is a very
Ooh.
queer game, which I think would be a lot of fun. And they just have very good energy. Someone I also know IRL, someone who also lives near you, Jupie. Um,
Oh.
so if we want to grab these, um, I found you on Twitter when you were talking about this stream, Lucy. Thank you so much, honey. There is a
Aw.
VOD if anyone wants to watch, but otherwise our first official show is on Sunday. Jupie and I were just kind of interviewing each other as hosts today, but we'll have guests joining us on Sunday at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. I don't know what that translates to your time zone for your beans, but
It's
um,
8. That's 8 a.m. for us.
you're
It's our
gonna be up
coffee
so
stream.
early.
I know, but it's okay. I'm excited to have it be my morning routine now. It's gonna be great.
But we're gonna go see the lovely Cheyenne bought in. She actually made my emotes, so it'll be cute to
Oh yes.
raid with her emotes. If you're a sub, you can grab the one with the little hive, and if you are just a lovely follower and friend of the hive, then you can grab the one with the emojis and still vibe and hang out with us. Thank you for all of the love tonight, and just holding
Hi.
space for us.
Are we back?
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Thank you so much,
Oh,
everyone.
good. We're back.
Bye.
Bye.
I don't know what happened there.
Okay.
I know, and I was talking about
Okay.
technical difficulties. Lol.
Uh,
I'm glad we're back though. Hi.